When I uploaded my Anno video 1.5 years ago, many of you guys could not understand how a seemingly stressful game like Anno could relax me. And I totally get your points. I know how weird it must seem that I look at this and think, wow, this relaxes me. Yet, after having spent almost 600 hours in Anno 1800 alone, another contender entered the ring and knocked me down in a millisecond. The positively ludicrous Planet Zoo. It has managed to grab me just in the same way as Anno did. Hour-long sessions with tunnel vision and a calming familiarity with every aspect of them have become a staple of these two games for me. That obviously leads us to one simple question. How? Basically, it comes down to two things. An almost endless pit of creative freedom and having control over everything. But first, a bit of history. Planet Zoo, which is situated in the ecosystem of the Planet series, containing Planet Coaster 1 and 2 and obviously Planet Zoo, is developed by Frontier Developments. You may remember Frontier as the developers porting Rollercoaster Tycoon to Xbox, developing DLC for Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, and fully developing Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, as well as Elite Dangerous and F1 Manager. And this is actually another big part of where my love for Planet Zoo comes from. It shares a lot of its DNA with the Tycoon games of back in the day, specifically Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 and Zoo Tycoon. If I had gotten Burn-In on my old laptop when I was like 12, it definitely would have been the UI of Zoo Tycoon and Rollercoaster Tycoon. I later switched to, who would have thought, Anno, and then many more games. But these two Tycoon games, with all their creative freedom and basically simple yet partially highly complex gameplay, always lured me back. Funnily enough, I actually tried Planet Coaster a few years before Planet Zoo, and I did not like it. It wasn't that I didn't want to play this type of game or that it wasn't thematically engaging, but boy are these games ever not beginner-friendly. I imagine that if I had to develop a game like Planet Zoo, a huge factor to struggle with would be balancing the amount of detail between the different gameplay aspects. Here, an example. You have 7 different types of staff, ranging from, obviously, zookeepers to vendors, security staff and more. You can level them up, increase and decrease their pay, and assign them to specific areas of work which you set up yourself. They also work on research projects automatically as soon as you assign one to them. Now, that isn't too shabby. However, this game has literally thousands of items, ranging from walls, doors, windows, roofs, floors made of wood, concrete, metal, stone and clay, signs, letters, numbers, shapes in many colors, lights, poles, planks, benches, rubbish bins, shops, different designs for those shops, paths, grounds, water, fog and bubble effects, animal enrichment, educational facilities and kiwis. Many of these items and props can be placed anywhere in the zoo, connected to each other, grouped, moved, turned and sometimes even colored. The only thing you usually can't do is resize them, but that isn't really an issue because, and that's where I'm getting with this whole shebang, this amount of creative freedom can be absolutely overwhelming. And it was for me in Planet Coaster, and I assume that the developers had to think about it long and hard before they chose this path, because they needed to strike a balance between pleasing the ultra micromanaging, micro-designing and funny aminal crowd. And in the end, they went with the designers, also gave a bit to the managers, and, well, as I said, may have put off some people who just want to throw some animals in a square and call it a day. I counted myself towards the leisurely casuals for quite some time, but I eventually pulled through, and I absolutely don't want to go back. What makes this overwhelming access to props and designs manageable is the fact that, if you want to, you could build a very simple, I would go as far as to say ugly habitat and, as long as the basic criteria are met, still have satisfied animals. Or you could spend literally hours micromanaging, designing and building habitats, set pieces or visitor areas to your liking. Both paths lead to success, with varying amount of work. One could argue that it takes the fun out of it, or that it isn't the idea of the game to just throw stuff into the habitats and call it a day, but two things are problematic with that view. First of all, who are we to determine what's the right way to play the game? And secondly, if we're honest, it can be a tad tedious, can't it? Placing every plant and stone meticulously, forming and carving every square foot of the ground. I see how this might not be entertaining gameplay for everyone. However, coming from Anno as my other big building game, this is exactly what I want and need. I'm not saying I'm particularly good at it, but I try my best. Having the option of tens of thousands of combinations makes my consistently idea-creating brain twitch in excitement because it almost never reaches the immensely frustrating point of not being able to build what you want to build within the confines of reason. And failing to build a habitat that looks like what I have visualized in my head actually makes me just try even harder than just give up, even though I still mostly fail even then. What's also something not to be forgotten is the fact that games need immersion. And I immerse myself into the game, or at least I try, which in this case means these are real animals with real needs. So my task is to make their lives as pleasant as possible in confinement, and having a plethora of options to do exactly that is very satisfying and, kind of in a feedback loop, makes the game more immersive. And that's my dog, shaking her collar. Are you doing fine? Please don't touch. Oh my god. Anno focused the aforementioned triangle of managing, designing, and just playing definitely more on the managing side, but that makes sense given the subject matter of the game. Still, even though 1800's increased number of design elements were a welcome refresher, it is Planet Zoo's ability to create something entirely new with immense flexibility that just added heaps of motivation to spend a lot of time in this game. Okay, cool, but that can't be all, right? Correct. This love for detail that is possible for the player was also put into the game's development. Including all DLC, the game contains 195 different animal species. They are obviously fully animated, including but not limited to walking, running, sitting, laying down, sleeping, eating, pooping, romancing, climbing, and more. They look, at least to my humble eyes, very natural. They come in many different colors, though no size differences as far as I can tell, but I do think there are species with gendered sizes. For every animal, there is a full Zoopedia entry, including general info about the animal, natural habitat and therefore zoo habitat info, species data, including size, weight, group size, and more, and if there's interspecies, interspecies enrichment, and if there is interspecies enrichment possible. Connected to the research mentioned before, there's also an overview over how far along you are in this species research. And while I have to admit that these parts of the game play no real part in why I love it so much, it is an objectively great educational addition to any game about animals. What has been praised a lot as well is the game's focus on animal conservation. Some animals can additionally or actually only be purchased with a currency that is gained by working towards conservation. Again, that's not really a huge attractor for me, but still very nice to see. Like Anno, Planet Zoo's graphics are all about vibes. It's not like either game looks bad, quite the opposite, but with games as detailed and modular as these, having RDR2 or Cyberpunk levels of graphical fidelity across the board is just not feasible. Especially in the distance, Planet Zoo loses a lot of detail, while its close-ups are tremendously gorgeous. That's why vibes are so important to support the overall look. The way the colors harmonize with each other, the UI is present but not obstructing, the cute little details and design choices in menus and icons and whatever, all of this creates an atmosphere that is harmonious, idyllic, and relaxed. I like the unrelenting violence of post-war Witcher, the dystopian future of cyberpunk, or mnemonically challenged cowboys, but those are negative, even if fitting and wanted, negative atmospheric attributes that, paired with the stress of a simulation or a tycoon, would probably be too much for me. But when the sun rises above my zoo, I go down on the ground level with the camera and watch the light flow through the habitat, watch the animals open their eyes and go for a luscious breakfast of fruit and lettuce. And for a second, all the hustle and bustle is gone. And I bathe in the situation and oh fuck it, escape, no. However, it's not all fun and dandy in Planet Zoo. Many people have complained about the path tool. I mean, the third most downloaded mod for Planet Zoo on Nexus is the free build mod with almost 50k downloads. Hell, with the first one being a script extender, I would argue that it is the second most downloaded mod even. Yes, after a while you get used to it, I will admit as much, but when my keepers can't rest because all the break rooms are full, my visitors are complaining about trash and ugly service buildings, and my western lowland gorilla Harambe has miraculously gained possession of a small child, the last thing I need is for my paths to somehow not connect. Have no railing, too many railings. Oh, I forgot to change the railing settings. Oh, why is there a hole now? Oh yeah, tunneling, that's not a circle, why? Oh my god, you get the idea. The path tool was probably the biggest factor why I stopped playing Planet Coaster. Even though I like the way the game tickles my brain with its complexity, it is also more difficult to be on top of everything because the interconnects are just so much more compounded. In Anno, you have clear product lines from a natural good to a finished product. If there is a problem with the chain, it's usually found quite quickly. In Planet Zoo, however, this becomes more difficult. Why is Habitat 3 so dirty and a health risk? Is it because the terrain is not accessible to the keepers? Then I need to redesign. Is it because I have too many animals in the habitat? Then I would need to give some away, of course only if they are fully grown already or not sick. And then I have to think about whether it's a one-off problem or a general one with this species. Then I would need to administer contraception. Or is it because I don't have enough keepers, or because I don't have enough keepers in this work area? Is this habitat even part of a work area? And this is where the game tends to lose me a bit, where even I get to my limit, where the game is still fun, but more in a work and managing way and not in a relaxing building way. Even though having control over everything and putting me behind the wheel is what I want, as I said in the intro. I like having to manage a lot of workflows and structures myself, but I want them to work automatically after a certain amount of work has been put into them. And while in Anno, after a while, the product chains are stable and sufficient for quite some time, I feel like in Planet Zoo I have to check on them much more often and that they are more prone to errors. That might very well be my own problem or intended, but it still affects my experience negatively. Definitely not negatively enough to not play the game, but it is noticeable. I guess that's also why I haven't finished any of the zoos that I tried building based on a challenging concept like only round habitats, very small habitats, animals from only one continent, stuff like that. It takes away the relaxing aspect of the game too quickly, and I abandon it before I actually get anywhere. Funnily enough, I never tried these challenges in Anno, but I think that's because Anno takes even longer to really get going, so the risk of wasting hours instead of just a few dozen minutes on a concept you will eventually abandon is much higher. In the end, I'm quite individualistic when it comes to these types of games, so I also never played the career mode. I need safeguards off, highly flexible gameplay where I can do what I want, when I want, and fail how I want to. And when it clicks, I jump in. I start a zoo, and quite soon it's go or no. One zoo becomes almost something of a hyperfixation. I jump from project to project, habitat to habitat, and work on dozens of fronts, but never grow tired of it and never build a second zoo. It's just the one. And when the time comes, eventually, I drop it like a hot potato and start over again. I bet there's some deeper meaning in this behavior, but hey, what do I know? I mean, it's just my brain we're talking about. In the end, I really like this game. But there's always room for improvement to tickle my brain even more. So what would I like to see in its successor? Either I'm completely blind, or I can't see an option to filter purchasable animals by continent or biome. Especially when I'm trying to build, let's say, an Asian jungle part of my zoo, I always need to go to the Zoopedia, check for suitable animals there, and then check if they are available for trade. Just let me filter by more variables is what I'm saying. Oh, and while we're at it, why not add alarms for animal listings? Sometimes I'm knee-deep in work and I might miss the however many minutes window in which an animal is available. And with some of them being quite rare, this is very annoying, especially when I already have one of them and they are desperately waiting for a friend. It just isn't feasible to constantly look at the market. Looking at the mods, many people seem to agree that we need more water animals. On the first 5 pages in the most downloaded mod section for Planet Zoo, 18 of the listings are for modded water animals. I have a personal fascination for water animals in general, so my opinion on this is probably slightly tainted, but the game is objectively focused massively on land animals. Out of the 195 available, only 21 are water-based, and that's a generous estimation, including exhibition animals and water buffalo. If you think about it, it says something quite positive about a game, when my only ideas for improvement are, I need to micromanage even more, and your 200 animals are not enough, I need to play it more in a more difficult environment. In the end, I play games to have a good time. And in Planet Zoo, I genuinely do. If I had to simply attach adjectives to this game, they would be cute, fun, challenging, creative, wholesome, engaging, and, well, relaxing. I wasn't able to formulate my thoughts on how exactly this game relaxes me as well as I did in the Anno video, so maybe check that one out as well. And that is something that's partly on me, but in a way also on Planet Zoo, but not in a bad way. It has this aura, this special something, the music, the looks, the gameplay, that is a bit incomprehensible, needs to be experienced to be understood. And I think 78,000 positive to 7,000 negative reviews on Steam would agree. To conclude all of this, I have high hopes for Planet Zoo 2 and that it will do the same for me that Planet Zoo 1 has done and is doing. I will, if there are no glaring issues from the start, probably get it quite soon after launch to meticulously plan where my penguins will rub their butts against a piece of colored wood. And if that isn't the ultimate staple of great gameplay, I don't know what is. Thanks for watching.